this summer.
Join your fellow Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference, this July 15th to 18th at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.
Welcome to the crossroads of dreams and wisdom, where ambition dances with the soul. You're listening to The Balanced Visionary, aligning ambition with soulful success. I'm Jen, your guide on this journey of self-discovery and achievement. Each week we'll explore the paths of personal growth, spiritual depth, and professional triumphs. Together, we'll unearth the secret to a life where success is not just what we achieve, but how we thrive. So visionaries, are you ready to transform your ambitions into a journey of the heart? Let's embark on this adventure together. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of The Balanced Visionary. We have another special guest here today in the studio, and it's an honor to be introducing this man. I have personally been working with him behind the scenes over the past couple of months to help bring his vision to life. And you heard a little bit about what he is starting at the beginning of this podcast. But today we have Brian Tsang with the Full Disclosure Movement coming on board in the collective. And I wanted to give you some information before I bring him on the show. Brian helped organize the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour with survivors of the infamous Montauk Project, as depicted in the popular TV series Stranger Things. The tour was on the 80th anniversary of the related Philadelphia experiment, when the U.S. Navy first ripped a hole in time and space by placing a Tesla generator at either end of the USS Eldridge Navy destroyer in 1943. Now, if you guys don't know about the Philadelphia experiment, I highly recommend that you do some research and get familiar. It's pretty fascinating. But Brian co-hosts the Disclosure Now YouTube channel with Arkeem Ra, and their mission is to force the disclosure and exposure of the secret space programs, military abduction programs, MyLabs, super soldier projects, and the like, as the first step to bridging about our collective Star Trek future. Brian has a biochemistry degree from Occidental College. He has an academic background, and his academic background is a testament to his expertise. He further honed his skills by volunteering with physicians in the San Francisco Bay Area, advocating for medical causes full-time for 5 years and then 3 years part-time. His dedication and experience are evident, even as he took a break from medical advocacy due to the COVID scamdemic and the bioweapon jab campaigns. His current focus is in the highly anticipated 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference that's set to take place this July at Serrata Beach Resort in St. Pete Beach, Florida. This is a conference, guys, that you don't want to miss. It has world-class lineup of SSP experiencers, super soldiers, remote viewers, and whistleblowers, and it promises to be a groundbreaking event in the field. It's also the largest event that's happening on the East Coast. So make sure you secure your event passes and room stays at the www.fulldisclosuremovement.org website to be a part of this exciting journey. As well, if you go over to the website, you'll be able to see how I can help you bring your vision and movement to life, because Brian has hired me to help do all the technical things behind the scenes. Brian, it's an honor to bring you on. I can't wait to start this conversation because I really love working with you behind the scenes, and I think you have a lot to offer the community as it pertains to kind of going through this entrepreneur journey that everybody's doing and finding that balance with what information they're bringing to the collective. And this is something that really needs to find balance when people start getting into the secret space program, super soldiers, all of that type of thing.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, Jennifer. And of course, to all of our listeners. When it comes to this intersection of entrepreneurship and preneurship, if you will, and then also movements for positive change in the world, there's a lot of moving elements there. Sometimes, especially in this third density reality, trying to save the world doesn't always line up with a business plan or a bank account.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
But having said that, as we go from the third to fourth and fifth densities of consciousness, perhaps, and a better, higher vibration world, we can manifest much more alignment in these things where, hey, maybe you can be part of the disclosure movement and you don't have to be, broke living in a van by the river, if you don't want to.
No, I feel that I have been involved in some type of programs when I was younger, just from my history. And coming into this, I noticed that part of that program was to keep us stuck in that poverty level. They want to keep us trapped into that. And that's not the case. I mean, we are supposed to be abundant in whatever information that we are bringing towards the collective.
Yeah. At the same time, we're awakening to who we are, and we're taking the skills and all the things that were beaten into us in the previous economy. That economy is melting. So for people who are trying to cling to the old ways, thinking they're gonna go to college, get a degree, get picked up by the right company, work their way up, retire with the gold watch and the pension. I mean, nobody even thinks like that anymore. Our generation, I think, is the last that even considered that a possibility. But that absolutely got nuked these last 4 years, what the world has been through.
And continues, especially if you're watching the financials and what's happening on the other side of the world. And it's been, for me, it's been amazing to watch, because I woke up at the very beginning of all these changes and I can see it happen, right before my eyes. So I know that we're in amazing economical changes for a lot of people on this planet. But if you are stuck in that mentality, that 3D mentality that you have to go to school, you have to graduate, go to college, and all this other stuff, it's going to be a struggle for some of those people. The younger generation, my son especially, just kind of watching him, he's got the entrepreneurial spirit. They are bringing in new concepts that, like our generation can jump on and utilize and make a living off of. And I think a lot of people out there are starting to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, in a world where everything costs more and the value is going down on everything, to be able to offer a truly valuable service or product for the money is, I mean, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, that is key. I forgot, the nature of your show, touching upon, entrepreneurship, but also a soulful entrepreneurship. I also have like 4 years in the solar, home solar field, doing sales and marketing, and also selling cars as well as solar for Tesla for 2 years. And, so a lot of those skills apply. And um, I don't know, I guess my advice, if you will, for all the people out there, like, young people like your son, um, entering into this economy and want to be entrepreneurs, is it's not about, oh, I'm a musician, I'm going to try to follow a musical path, or I'm an organizer and I'm going to try doing event organizing, or, and the other part of me is I'm a visual artist, I'm going to pursue, fashion. And it's kind of like one person being ripped in three different directions. And that doesn't fly. I mean, it was hard to fly back in the 80s and 90s, but these days, forget it. So now it's kind of like, if you got those three different backgrounds and loves, it's how can you combine your skills and love and the connections that you've gotten from each of those three different fields. So now you're a person who, you've got your company, and or you're a musician, and you're now using your organizing skills to organize a team around you to support your ability to go around on tour. And you got someone now setting up your live gigs. And then that's the other part, is for entrepreneurs these days, it seems like it used to be you could go to the bank, get a big loan, get some money, and hire a team, and then try to go to town. And there are a lot more people out there who are hanging out their shingle that you could hire to be X, Y, or Z. Well, these days, I mean, as bad as it was then, these days you have to be even much more careful, not just to hire the right people in terms of they've got the right skills, but also they're not going to backstab you. This is a very desperate economy. These are very desperate times. And, even in the best of times, I see backstabbing amongst business partners, much less now. But not only do they have to be trustworthy, they also have to have a similar inline vision. It's no longer cutting it where that person's just there for the paycheck. We're not, this money is so tight these days that you have to have a crew that really is on board with a vision. And I'm not talking like getting together to chant Walmart. It's like, if I've got an entertainment LLC throwing a conference to push disclosure, I'm not going to have anyone on our executive team, no matter how good they are, who is a flat earther, or thinks the testimonies of our people are BS, and they're there for a buck. They're there because, well, they get paid well. That's those days are over.
Yeah, well, it's so important that you do say that, because the more that we are, bringing in these concepts that we have learned in the 3D realm and creating something that is our service, we're raising the vibration. A lot of the stuff, especially when you come together to co-create with another person, this is where you can really see all of the shadow work, the tools, where your mindset is. As long as I've been on this journey, whether it's in the 3D world and you're becoming an entrepreneur, or you're doing it in the spiritual realm, whatever area, you're still going to go through the same things as an entrepreneur goes through. And it's going to, for me, it's been the greatest tool in my awakening journey, because if I need to succeed, you better learn how to face yourself. And if you can't face yourself and come together in a co-creative community with other people, get ready. Everything is going to get triggered inside of you to come up to the surface. And if you're not utilizing the tools that you put in your handbasket, then it doesn't work. It's not going to work, especially in a high vibrational state, because, where disclosure starts with the individual first before it can even start on the outside. Because again, if half the people on this planet, because they haven't done their shadow work, if we were to have a UFO land, it would not be pretty. I see this a lot of the times. I watched the other day, I watched The Day the Earth Stood Still, and it was with the Keanu Reeves. I didn't even know he redid it. And
Yeah, the
first
remake. It was
time,
good. It was a good
yeah,
remake.
it was really good, but it showed, as soon as it landed in Central Park, they started firing at it and all this other stuff. And they didn't even know what it was coming out of the ship just yet. But that shows where humanity is. And that's all out of fear. And again, disclosure comes from you knowing what your fears are, what your triggers are, and learning how to navigate through it. Which, when you step into a solopreneur role, entrepreneur role, get ready. That's all going to come up to the surface for you to work through.
Let's talk about shadow work, because I think maybe even in your audience, or maybe some people are like, well, what is that, or what does it look like? Even better.
Yes.
And the people who haven't done the shadow work, it's evident in that lack of self-awareness and in ego. And it's when people are operating off of ego, then they're operating in a place where, the slightest perceived insult in a workplace or a group environment is just like leads to a train wreck and derails the whole operation. And so, to do shadow work is to basically do enough looking in that spiritual mirror, if you will, to recognize, without reservation, just looking, honestly, at one's own faults, your zits and pimples and, rashes or whatever spiritually on your face, or that could be cleaned up. And why not? And no one's going to clean that up but you. And the people who haven't done their shadow work, I know we can think of some recent classic examples of people where, we try to throw an event with them, and they're concerned that their name is at the top of the billboard, and their picture's the biggest picture. And, we don't want you to use your branding on our website because it's going to dilute our message. It might cost us some money somehow or fame in the long run. And that's, those are classic examples. And so to do shadow work is to look in the mirror figuratively at the end, or, of every day, or as it's happening, when, like, let's say I was in solar sales and I go in a customer's house and I blew them out of the water, and I could tell it was a bad vibe when I left, I mean, that didn't ever really happen, but, I'm sure, like, I had an off customer visit. You got to really examine, instead of like, screw that customer, or I'm hungry, I'm going home.
Or taking it personal. Some people will bomb something and walk out of it, and it's the negative self-talk. They'll beat themselves up. They're all negative. By the time they get home, fuck this job. I'm no good. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's just like riding a bike. When you first got on a bike, guys, you didn't really quite know how to do it. You fell. You maybe, couldn't pedal right. It's a learning experience, but you still got back up and you did it.
You have to give yourself the self-love and the freedom. Okay. Yes. And I say this all the time to people: give yourself the freedom to at least conceptualize. Yes, you had a terrible, harsh conversation with that customer because it went wrong in their house over a solar sale, because you have to give yourself the freedom to replay the conversation dispassionately, okay, like a doctor would over a patient. You don't want a heart surgeon who walks into the operating theater is like, oh my God, this person's bleeding and it's so terrible, they look like they're in so much pain, and oh my, I don't know if I can cut them open. You don't want Woody Allen as a heart surgeon. You want John Wayne, or at least a clinician. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to cut the varmint open, take out the heart, stitch her up, slap it back in, and we're done. That business-like ability, you need to first be able to apply it to your own life. And if you can't separate the emotion from replaying the events of your own life, then I don't see how you're going to run a business, because you can't even run your own life.
Well, also from what I have noticed through my journey and working with clients, myself included, if you're not handling or working through that type of stuff, know that those are the type of people you're going to start to attract. Customers, the experiences. There was at the very beginning of my journey when I first started out, there was a period where I couldn't get people to pay me on time or give me the information on time. And I had to do a self-reflection on me, on what was I not doing for other people that were waiting for me not being on time. So it was, the more that I dig deeper and do the work, that does start to change, but the experiences on the outside are going to match what's going on the inside. And if you're stuck in that victim mentality, it's going to be very hard for you to get over to the next level.
I was about to say, let me guess, you got tired of getting stepped on like a doormat.
Yes.
And you found the inner strength through that shadow work and self-reflection to then have the strength and principled ability to stand up to your erstwhile clients and say, hey guys, I'm going to deliver you an excellent product, but in turn, I demand, to be paid what I deserve to be paid in full and on time. And, and once you found that strength, you probably found that you lost some customers, and
I didn't take it personally.
And then you found the ones who could meet that decent professional standard that you were holding yourself and now the people you're working with too.
Yes. And it continues to grow. Right now I'm going through tweaking how I do some things, because I've had another layer of working with many clients. I've gotten that crystal clarity on, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I don't want to do. I need to tweak this. I need to tweak that. So I am working on restructuring that. And I'm coming in with the awareness that there may be some customers that don't like that, or I may not be offering a service anymore that I was before because it's just not serving me at this time. And that's quite okay. I have a mentor that I absolutely love, and she's got the track record, especially with the business and how to run it. And I love how she says that the most, people are paying for what you have to offer and their time. They are trusting you with their time. And time is the most important thing that we have on this planet. Your energy and time supersedes any currency out there. So, when you honor your time, the people outside of you will start to honor that time as well.
And, and just observing where you are in your career, Jennifer, I think you're in a very enviable spot. You've got great skills and you've got a great track record. You've sharpened your teeth, if you will, in the corporate world where you didn't want to be, but now you're able to, take everything you've got and use it to get what you need to move forward. You're able to now demand higher rates, demand a higher, better clientele, pick the projects that you want. And, that's a paradigm shift. I mean,
Yes.
I know a lot of the people listening to this are not probably in that enviable position. They're more like, oh my gosh, I just graduated from college. I've got $50,000 of student debt, and now I'm going to be a solopreneur. And that's, my hat's off to you. And also, that's why definitely reaching out for mentorship to folks like Jennifer is very, very, very important. Because with this economy and the world situation, making missteps are that much more painful and dangerous. It's that much harder to recover when there's not a million companies hiring, offering wonderful salaries that, when companies are letting go of Harvard and MIT grads, okay, I don't, it doesn't really, it don't matter. I don't care what your GPA is at any other university or, Harvard Law School. Who cares? It don't matter. You had me at, doesn't matter how good your education is. That's not cutting it anymore.
It isn't. It's just watching the economic changes. Most of my whole life, I was a single mom. I had a relationship, periodically there was a partner. But I had financial things that I needed to take care of, custody with my ex and everything like that. And now it's like, my son's 18, all the insurance stuff has gone away. And I remember saying, going through that period, that, it'll be a relief to have that extra money come back in, that it's not being taken out somewhere. And it doesn't even apply today. They're saying that you have to make 120, a household needs to bring in 127,000 or more to be able to do your basic needs. And that is total freaking bullshit, because even when you look at looking for a job, and a woman too, sometimes you don't have, like, they're offering 50, 60,000, and most people can't even cover their bills with that.
It's like, to make a living at the standards the U.S. government seems to think is realistic, you have to, on the side, of your day job, be a hooker and a successful gambler and give blood plasma on the regular.
I know a girl that actually does that.
And so,
not the hooker part, but she donates plasma.
Yeah.
She works another part-time job. She does dancing.
Strippers, right? The stripping and yeah, and it's like, so then I guess our words of wisdom, to our friends out there, in the audience, is there are new ways of doing things that have to be, well, they're basically the old ways that are going to be rekindled into the new ways. And so, we use the example of like the nuclear family, where it used to be, people used to be raised in tribes, in villages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Takes a tribe to raise a child, or a town, a village. And then it got turned into the nuclear family. Mom, dad, 2 kids, maybe 3, and a dog. Okay, well, what the F happened to grandma and grandpa in that nuclear family equation? What happened to the grandkids in that nuclear family equation? Right now, that equation has totally been blown apart. How many families do we all know where there's like mom and dad and grandpa and grandma, they get together every now and then with like the grandkids and the nieces and nephews? That, I don't see that much of that these days for many reasons.
It's not. And I will tell you this, the younger generation, they don't honor that aspect of it. That's something personal I'm going through and having the realization. Even as much as the children are raised in that environment, my fondest memories were being with my grandmother, and my family, as dysfunctional as they are, we still did that. My aunts and uncles were always involved. I mean, the family was big on my side, growing up. But I am recognizing in the younger generation, from my friends, they're, here talking about our kids and stuff like that. It's not an honor. It's not, they don't teach that. They are actually trying to divide the family unit. But you are exactly correct. It takes a tribe to raise a child. And there's a reason for that, why it is set up that way, and why tribal units do. That's how they govern themselves. They want it separated.
And so some people listening to this might say, well, what is my tribe? Where is our tribe? And, I'd argue, if you're listening to this, your tribe, are the people who want to be solopreneurs, people who want to be living and existing and working and producing in the 4th and 5th density levels of consciousness, let us say, a world where we can do business, where we're first bringing value to the world, and each other as a society. Okay. If your business isn't on the balance, giving to the world in a positive way, and at best it's a zero-sum game where no one wins or loses, that's not going to work. And obviously, if it's a business where it's just taking, that's not going to last. Okay, for many reasons. As hopefully we transition to systems that become more accountable, there's a lot of stuff that shady stuff won't be able to get away with anymore. Thank God. But the other thing is this kind of like a Dolores Cannon thing, in my opinion. Us black sheep of the family, or star seeds. There's a reason why families in general only got one black sheep. That's because as star seeds, there aren't enough of us to go around, so we were spread far and few between to do the best work we could, wherever we were. And of course, that's harsh. It's like being thrown behind the enemy lines in a battle, and all alone. Okay, but now that we've kind of survived this far, now what we're doing is, it seems like instead of finding or trying to reconcile with these 3D families, that we're no longer having Thanksgiving dinners with and listening to Bing Crosby around the fireplace for Christmas, if anyone ever remembers that anymore.
I know.
And I'm saying this as a Chinese American guy.
I struggle too in those moments because I'm like, Christmas is a pagan holiday.
Right. Yeah. And, but the times are changing. It's now we're linking up with our spiritual tribe, our soul tribe, so it's like maybe, I think like here's some great business opportunities for people out there. And I know some people doing this already. They're getting people together, bought beautiful 40 acres of land in Maryland. They're beautifying the place. They've got the ability to build like these awesome geodesic dome structures to have people do glamping and camping and events there. And then also they're running daycare. Okay. Where then they could even maybe homeschool kids. Mm-hmm. Right. And, think about it like this. How many needs does that meet? Okay. Where people these days, they're wary of sending their kids to school. They want a safe place to send their kids, not just for school, also for daycare, for their younger kids. And then also, sounds like a good way to generate revenue, and then bringing the ability to bring people together in collective groups who can play nice and not backstab. That's also a really important thing, because it still seems like there's a lot of that being worked out, but it seems like there are people who are working that out. They're getting together, they're building these joint ventures, and they're doing it in such a way that it looks like it can be sustainable, happy, and healthy in the long run.
Yes. You're talking about Zach and Sue and the domes of Rainbow Ridge. I also help them too. So yes. I fully support their mission because it's another avenue. So a lot of people with the Airbnb and doing the communities, the thing that people need to think about is the property itself. If you're going to buy land, making the land generate you money, so that you'll have that income to provide everything that you need for the community. And I love seeing it. And this is why I love being able to support people that have these visions and birth them into the reality, just communities, because it's popping up actually all over the United States. There's a website that I recently came across that you can list all the different types of communities and, what they require. Each one is a little bit different. And each one I noticed Kate, if you're looking for your tribe and you're somewhat sort of a hippie type, you can find a community for that. And then I came across a whole neighborhood of, corporate people that that, you know, nice houses and stuff, but it still is a community that they have a garden. Someone within the community is either a mechanic and they trade services. You have someone that does sewing. I mean, it's pretty amazing. They're not still stuck in the community and just working for the community. They may have to drive into the city for their job or whatever. But that community, that connection, that working together of what we are supposed to do as human beings, and not only supporting ourselves, you know, independently, but as a whole, is starting to take place. And I think that that is beautiful, and finding other ways to support yourself through that. Daycares is especially, I'm big on that as well, because a lot of people do want to take their kids out of school, but there's a couple people out in the community that we know that teach kids, help kids do that outdoor learning, and start to implement higher vibrational things to help our collective. And that is much needed. It's the children that's the most important.
Yeah, because I mean, daycare is a perfect example. There's, you know, let's say you've got grandma and grandpa, they're not that old. They're very well educated. They would be perfect to homeschool, you know, a group of kids, a gaggle of kids. Okay. And you can scale that up by adding more grandpas and grandpas, or more educators, if you will, you know, young or old. And, you know, but meanwhile, you know, you got grandma and grandpa, they're sitting around, they're starving, living on fixed incomes. And then you got all these parents, single or, you know, 2-parent families, and they're struggling to find daycare, much less afford daycare, you know, while they're trying to work their day jobs. And it's like, man, if you guys all just found each other and set up an equitable arrangement at the right space, you know, it helps grandma and grandpa sitting on their butts, living on a fixed income, struggling. It helps mom and dads who can't afford decent daycare and want to find a good place for the kids. And obviously helps the kids, our future, right? And these are the new models. This is what we're talking about. And that's just one example, is daycare. I'm sure we could apply that to farming, you know, whether food crops or you know, raising animals for that. And there's going to be a lot of that, you know, returning to the more organic old ways. And, you know, yes, our economy is going digital, but as it goes more digital, it's going to take less and less infrastructure. And then what good is digital economy without this hard economy? And that's what I think we're finding out painfully, is we've got a digital economy without a real hard economy. And as we're going to be going through in the next 10 years, it's going to be really bad, because, you know, Facebook social feeds do not feed you. It's good to coordinate, but you need a hard economy underlying all that.
Well, so I got to chime on this. I came across, I think it was on Instagram. I can't remember how I saw it. Facebook, just for the capitalism and businesses, and this is important for all you guys to notice this, because I don't think it's passed yet. I'm pretty sure people are going to row about it. But Instagram now is going to suppress feeds for people who are not paying for that Meta badge. So if you're not a verified account, okay, if you're not a verified account, then what you're posting is going to be suppressed. And then you can pay for the tier up that you are, you know, affiliated some way with Instagram or whatever, and they'll push your feed. And this is why it's so important that we do come together as a community and what we're all doing and support. You know, it's all of, you know, regardless, like you said, different areas, whether it's daycare, whether it's farming, whether it's spreading truth, whether it's helping people learn how to put all this together and do it digitally like I do. Every single one of us has an important role. And the more that we do come together and help each other to get the message out, to start bringing in people into the community, I feel we can create our own economic structure. Because for me, most of my money outside of just going to the grocery store or paying for gas is spent in supporting people in the community.
Right. It's an uphill battle. This is not a neutral,
No.
forest where you just go around and pick apples. There's a lot of forces out there that actively have all this time been suppressing soulpreneurship. How many people
Yes.
out there? I mean, I can tell you, we were making CBD extracts for people, okay, to cure cancer, to cure grandma's arthritis, to help people with epilepsy and stop their
Mm-hmm.
seizures. And banks were shutting down my personal bank accounts when they found out I was involved anything CBD wise. And I know there are listeners out there like, what do you mean? CBDs are legal. I can buy it at the dispensary. I can go to the
Oh,
Walmart and buy CBD pet chews.
it's a
Yeah.
big
Well, well,
thing.
guess well, guess what? Try going to your local bank and trying to open it up and let them know you're involved with CBDs. They'll let you know that at the federal level, CBDs are still in a gray zone and they don't want to mess with that. So what it
Mhm.
seems like all these people selling CBDs with bank accounts, they're doing like offshore bank accounts through some weird third party stuff. And yeah, sure, if I want to jump through hoops and jeopardize the rest of my, financial, empire, or, mini molehill because, I'm selling CBDs in a pet store, that ain't going to happen. And so okay, well, that's not going to work. Well, then I got to find something else, I got to find things that aren't going to get me in trouble, and that are feasible and still help people. And then maybe bartering, comes into play, all sorts of creative thinking, but not janky creative thinking. I'm talking about real value. Why um, go hire some private firm to do legal work for me and pay an arm and a leg when I can go into my community and find someone who is that skilled and could do it better and give me better attention, and crowdsource that to my great community. Hey, out of my 2,500 contacts, of us star seeds and soulpreneurs, who knows a decent attorney who's not going to gouge me, will mind my interests, and I'll pay fair. Yeah, you're going to find them through that networking of our tribe, but that doesn't come from the old days of picking up the yellow books, and find and dialing screw 'em and cheat 'em, McClatchy.
We need to create a website that's a yellow book for us.
And there are out there. There's like this Red Balloon website, I think. There's different sites. Zach actually was raising this, and I know Drago and other people. We basically cool people need to get together on business
Yes.
ventures that will contribute to the world in one way or another. Where it's contributing to the health and education of our children, ourselves, cleaning up the environment, housing people without sticking them in the toxic bullcrap that we build these days for people that are overzoned and all that. Um, yeah, it's about getting creative too, because knowing we're in a not neutral environment where the powers that be do not want people circumventing the pharmaceutical industry, the typical construction and plastics, petroleum industries, whatever. I'm sure anyone listening to this is quite familiar.
Oh yeah. They have their hands tainted in everything in some level with certain codes and
Oh, you want to be a midwife? Imagine how hard they've been going after midwives and doulas, and boy, that's such important work, and it's been regulated to death by the powers that be, and then the rest of them got sued out of existence, and then now there are a few there, we have some, but it seems like that profession as a whole is a perfect example of coming under attack while doing God's work.
yeah. And that's why it's important, guys, that, going back to what this show is about, finding that balance, because you may encounter resistance along your journey. I know I certainly have. And I didn't let it stop me. I still, if there was a moment that I had to take a step back and, you do my self-care and everything like that, I got back on the horse and I kept going. I keep moving forward and putting one foot in front of the other, because I know what I have to offer to the collective is going to bring value to people and help this whole collaborative thing that we're doing, creating the Star Trek future. That's not one person. And that's where shadow comes up. If you think you're one person doing one thing, or, it's multiple different things, and we are all over the world, and you may be a doula and there may be another person that's a doula. Both of y'all are important at the same time, and you're serving your community at that time. And it's just important that we help you get your message out, share it, and support you in that. Know that you're not alone. The entrepreneur journey can be very lonely, because when you do step out into that, my family doesn't support me much in my decisions and anything like that. And it's taken a long time for me to get where I'm at. But you said it earlier. I am at that point where I value what I give is of more value than it was at the beginning, because I had that experience and it took patience. And when I realized that, I was like, oh yes, I'm in a plateau. Let's go.
Well, let's use some examples here. Of us synergistically working together, just like you're working with Zach and Sue, on their projects, and then myself on the conference. And then we're linking up with Zach and Sue's sister event, Day of Being 4.0, for our conference in Florida this July. There's this perfect examples of synergy and supporting each other right there. If you got a doula in Arizona and a doula in Philadelphia, and they're like, how can we support each other? Maybe they can refer clients to each other in each other's regions.
Yes.
I'm in Arizona. I can't get to Philadelphia, but you're in Philadelphia, and I can refer some people in the Pennsylvania tri-state area. Great. Let's go from there. I've got a buddy here, Chris Latoureur. He's a French Canadian, and he had an ebook on Amazon to testify his real life experiences as a Montauk boy under people like Preston Nichols, satanic pedophiles, running, these evil time travel projects. That was the Montauk Project, the code name Project Phoenix, by the way. That's the real name of the Montauk Project, as shown in Stranger Things. And his ebook was just taken down by Amazon, and he's now been banned from Amazon. And they're saying that his content is, it's not good, maybe it's got, misspellings and it's controversial, or somehow they're banning him from Amazon, and it's like, normally what would a guy like Chris do? Just throw up his hands and say, well, I'm banned from Amazon, and I here's my first ebook, and I just got shut down. Game over.
No.
Well,
no.
I
can offer a whole list of suggestions of what he
exactly.
could do.
Right. And I already, paid for a copy of the book, and now he had to email it to me because I can't get the copy I paid for off Amazon because they just deleted it off their
for just
service.
the digital copy.
Yeah,
I know Amazon's changing some of their things.
I can't get the digital. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't think so. It says its content's no longer available. And so, I'm gonna edit his book and help make sure it's clean and runs smooth. And then if Amazon doesn't let us take a crack, we'll find alternate outlets.
Yes.
And then we'll find alternate ways. Like maybe we'll publish half the book online for free, and then, and it'll be so good, we'll get people to buy the second half. Or maybe, we'll publish the first whole book for free, and then, get those rave reviews, and we'll make the second book $7.77, whatever. But this man has a very important testimony. The world needs to know about this stuff. And so that serves the world. It will then, enough people should buy his testimonial ebook there to help support Chris, and Chris can now help take part in the events and conferences that I throw with others to advance the larger disclosure movement. And we go from there. And that's New Earth. That's starting to look like a new Earth, my friends.
Yes. And I love that you say that, because you know, if you are a soulpreneur or you're in the spiritual realm, the disclosure community, that type of thing, sometimes when you get that information, you're going to get suppressed. And I love seeing how we can come up with the alternative ways, because there's a plethora of different things. As soon as you said that, my mind went boom, 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 boom. Like, we could try this, we could try this, we could try this. And that's where my genius zone is. That's why I know a lot of different modalities when it comes to building things or marketing things in the tech realm. And I've been able to observe and investigate like what happens in that, what these major platforms are doing to suppress the information. I've been able to watch them and kind of learn of like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try this route.
And
So,
and this is part of this warfare of
yeah.
it's elevating. It's like they censor us on Facebook, and then fine, we start our own YouTube channel, and then they censor us on YouTube, and then we start trying to route everyone over to Rumble. But then on Facebook, they start to censor the links to our Rumble channels. So then we have to form a group to then, spread the word off of the platform. It's this ever evolving situation, but as the tools of the other side seemingly get more advanced, like AI, they get more, gee whiz, and that is definitely, those are very worrying trends. At the same time, we are ourselves getting the tools, like being able to use AI editing suites to edit our shows, while we, in 5 minutes, while we boil some tea water. We just have an edited show, transcripts there. It's created reels, so the AI that's being used to censor and disrupt us, it can also be used on our side to, take what had been, $5,000 of studio editing suite hardware and software and 20 hours of work from a skilled technician. And now it's a snap of the fingers.
Oh,
And
yeah. AI has increased my productivity like 85%.
Yeah, but having said that, the AI made some okay changes to my bio, but it also made some mess ups in my bio I caught. And it's kind of like, I like what someone was observing about AI. I want AI to wash my dishes and mow my lawn, okay, and cook my dinner, maybe. But I don't want it to write my movies and paint my art for me and, do that. I want it to free the artist to do the art and, and
Right.
free the bridge builders to build the most beautiful bridges, but not have the bridge builders washing dishes while the AI builds wonky bridges. That's not what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. With all this stuff, like even the entrepreneur stuff that you learn, the 3D stuff, the AI, the new stuff that's coming out, it really goes back to the individual on how they're utilizing and working with it, the intention set. I am a firm believer in that we need to, especially with computers coming online that we do need to be leery about this. It's like driving. I don't know how to feel about self-driving cars just yet because
Oh, I work for Tesla. I feel terrible, bad. It's horrible.
you know
He should
I
have called it.
don't.
He should have called it co-pilot, not autopilot.
Yes. So it's, or I saw this when I was younger too, that I remember, most people don't know how to read a paper map. Okay.
Oh my God! Give him a Thomas Brothers guidebook, flip book to
Or
L.A.
right. Or to operate, GPS comes in handy, but what happens if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have access to this technology? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So
Like I'd have a hard time with real long division right now on paper. Honestly, I'll admit that to the audience.
well, yeah, bust out a calculator.
Bust out a
Yes.
calculator.
But we've become
Yeah,
dependent on it. And it's
yeah,
important that we do notice that with the certain technology, because AI AI is almost in everything now that I've noticed. I don't think that there's not a program out there right now that you can utilize that doesn't have AI in it. Meta just did that. Like,
Meta,
people were
yeah.
talking about the new Meta search, and when I saw that, I was like, "What is this?"
So I think let's take our case study a bit further. On the one hand, there's learning how to use the digital tools. And then on the other hand, there's going back to the old ways, more nuts and bolts, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a case study, let's integrate the two.
Okay.
Let's say you got Zach and Sue. They now have their glamping resort on the one side of their 40-acre property. They've got their daycare on the other side of the property. And let's say they've got a nice stream that's always running through it. Well, why not build a little water turbine and then a self-cooling server farm so that we could run server websites for our own endeavors and get away from the GoDaddies of the world and the Meta suckbooks of the world, run our own stuff. And then now we're more getting independent of the lamestream while building our own infrastructure, supporting each other, giving each other, fair pricing, and bartering, okay, we host your website for your organic farm, and then you donate alfalfa and slabs of beef for our team, to maintain the servers. You know what I mean? And then instead of paying $5,000 a year, you pay us $2,000 a year. Great.
Mm-hmm.
That thinking it's out of the box. Shameless plug for my show Beyond the Box, but that I'm on with others. But really, it's about thinking creatively with what's in front of us. That a lot of us we're missing it. We're missing it, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be missing our fellow doula in Arizona because we're in Philadelphia, and we're both struggling.
Mm-hmm. Well said. I do know some people that I have connected through the years that have had similar ideas, because I'm in the tech realm. So I talk to a lot of people who are techie, and I know that has been a conversation. Creating something that is above my pay grade at the moment, but I know that is, I can feel that happening in the future for us. Start as soon as, financially, like we talked about earlier. I think a lot of these companies are going to crash and crash hard, and it'll be the perfect opportunity to come in and start utilizing that area and make it not so tainted the way that it is now. Use it for our benefit. I mean, the tools are there, they're good. There's nothing really wrong with the tools. It's going back and how you're utilizing it.
And for what? And what for?
And I was just going to say, and what for?
It's one thing to be the host server for organic farming and ranching. It's an entirely different thing to be the host server farm for a GMO ranch, pushing crap, but they're paying 3 times what that eco-friendly, farm would have paid you to host their website.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And that's, that's the spiritual warfare. It's in our face, whether it's in the business realm or the interpersonal realm or whatever.
Yeah, it is big time for us right
and
now.
for people who don't want to recognize spiritual warfare in business, those are the people who will fail in the new earth, because your business won't be there doing the right work for the right reasons. It's not going to get love from other people, much less source.
Well, let's chime in on that, because we talked about doing the shadow work at the beginning of the podcast. And when you do the shadow work, your vibration will start to raise. And a lot of us are coming online. Whatever psychic gift that you have out there, I'm pretty sure that a lot of us know our bullshit meter, okay? And the higher we get, that is so important. If you are not in integrity in your business, and it's a service to self aspect, and you're whether you're not doing the right things, you're not doing the right things, that again goes all back to shadow work. Know that people are going to be able to pick that up. So that's a really good point that you bring out, Brian, because people need to be aware of that. That's why when I do work with clients, I try to be very integral, be honest, clear communication, and value your time. Your time is important. And is, me working with you, just like working on this conference, I believe in what you do. I want to be able to support your mission. And that is why. So, I mean, there's been clients I have had to say, no, I'm sorry. We're not in alignment. I don't, no judgment here. Go do your thing. But I can also say that, it's not going to work out for you. People do struggle when you're not in that alignment because you're not bringing in a higher vibration. You're not bringing in source creator energy, and you're not leading with love, period.
Let's
And
use
the
an
world
example.
need love.
I get an example for you. In terms of an example of lack of love, and something that's going to fall apart. Without naming names, I know there's an organizer out there who throws these UFO alien type conferences. It's like, well, I throw alien, these conferences too. Well, what's the delineation here? Well, this person, I've learned from multiple people, has had presenters pay him to appear on his stages. Okay. So what he's doing is he's treating the movement and the people in the movement with their testimonies as people that are there for him to make money off of. And he doesn't even really believe in their testimonies. And he'll even have you be on stage with these presenters. And then at the end of their presentation during Q&A, he'll shoot questions at them that make them look bad. Okay. And, he's always dangling to these people. Well, I've got such a big conference with so many people watching that you need to be on my stage. Okay. Well, that might have flown a couple years ago when he was, the big guy throwing the big conferences and X, Y, and Z. But, since then, as these stories or testimonies get out, the bad taste in people's mouth, from different various incidents, now I'm finding, well, his last conference, all these people, like, they were on his poster, and it turns out, well, they dropped out. And is that surprising? Is it surprising that people who are presenting on your stage for your conference are just going to drop out like that? Multiple of them this year because, you've had no love or loyalty to them this whole time. And now that times are rough and they've got other places to go. Okay. And other people who are saying, hey, you don't have to get treated like dog do over here by this guy exploiting you, when we're going to do everything we can to treat you right, give you a proper testimony, compensate you fairly, make sure you have a place to stay, make sure, you can autograph your books and meet with people. You're going to be taken seriously. You're among other presenters where none of you are like saying, oh, that dude's a fake. No, you're a fake. No, we'd have none of that crap going on. And by doing our stuff in alignment, I think that hopefully we're going to have longevity as opposed to the other way. Not so much.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm right now, I'm blown that people are paying to go to be on.
You know who I'm talking about?
No, but we'll talk about it after the show.
Keep that offline.
To be honest, yes, I have seen that, not just in the disclosure conference. There's been other conferences that I have looked at potentially speaking, and they wanted me to pay. And I was like, no,
what?
like that's
what, dude?
it should be opposite because I am spending my time.
Right, I'm
Um,
making you money. You're selling tickets by putting my face on your poster.
right. So I don't agree with that. And I've seen the flip side. I've heard of people putting on conferences. They've been promised to pay the speakers. They come out and the speakers don't get paid.
That's the same thing. I mean,
It,
that's the
it's
same thing, pretty
right.
much.
And
They got screwed.
to take that a next level, I've also seen it where they dictate that because this person is brand new, may not have that much experience, may not be good at speaking on stage or whatever, but is at the very beginning of their journey, it's a learning lesson. They want to get it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Their stuff is not as valued as the one who's been regurgitating the same story that you've already seen at 5 other different conferences. Nothing has changed. It's the same thing, and you're probably paying like 500 some odd dollars to hear this person speak. I would rather want to hear the little man because I think some people in whatever community is, when you get to that level, it's the overinflated ego. And again, you
Yeah.
can start to see this.
The
So
gatekeeper.
it's the gatekeeper. It's so important that we start to just shed that. We're in that change right now that's happening in our collective. And this is again, Brian, why I love working with you, because you are bringing this to the table. And I have seen that behind the scenes, especially with the speakers, the new guys that are coming in, that this is their first conference. They're so super excited and it's so cute to see. I love seeing it compared to the ones that are, they're pros at this. You treat them no different.
No, and that's because I'm not looking at them through the lens of you're, the big name and you're going to bring in, millions of dollars and you're the little pipsqueak who, no one knows. I look at them all as, well, you've got a testimony and you've got a testimony, and it's your testimonies and who you are that's important. The other thing is it gets worse. There are, it's bad enough that there are conferences or groups that'll make you pay them or exploit you somehow. In that way, there's also times where they'll try to get you to sign a contract that says that whatever you discuss at the conference is now their intellectual property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have seen that too.
Right. And that's the Corey Good phenomena. I'll name names. And the thing is that thankfully, as people wake up to the Corey Good phenomena and they're like, hey, wait a second, this guy is trying to co-opt the whole darn super soldier secret space program disclosure movement and turn it into a book deal. Okay, that ain't going to happen. Okay, it's more and more people are going to get wise to that, not just from the higher powers that be, but from even people within our own. And this is something that in the community, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news, if you will. This is obvious to me, but just because, for example, we're all in the disclosure community, and we're all throwing conferences and doing YouTube podcasts or whatever, does not mean we're all on the same side. I'm not on the same side as that guy who makes his presenters pay him and who's a flat earther and sabotages his people on stage for whatever reason. I don't even know. I can imagine. We're not the same. Yeah, we're all, disclosure in our, trademark brand names or whatever. But at the end of the day, whatever movement you're in, you're going to have a division of the people who have principles and values and will stand for those. That's principled practice. And the people who do not have principles, they do not have values, they have unprincipled practice. And so we're not all on the same side. It's if you are in the disclosure movement and you're a principled and valued person, you're on my side. If you think you're in the disclosure movement and you're an unprincipled, no values, no nothing, stay the heck away from us. You are not going to help our movement. No way, no sir. That's, I don't want you. You got $1 million. I don't care. Keep it away from me. You're going to taint the movement.
Yeah. And in the disclosure movement, And with any information, whether you are educating somebody out there, I mean, most of us will teach at the level that we currently know. This is why continue education through your journey is so important in discovering these things. But it is, as you, as the individual, with the information that you are sharing, it is important that you come from integrity. You have these values, you stand up for things, and you value other people's time. Because I have come across some people in the disclosure community that people still listen, that I've watched their podcasts. They've had a couple of guests on there. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It was multiple different times where they didn't vet, and the person that they were interviewing was a total scam artist, you know?
Let's name one. I'm going to name him. Barrow May, also known as Dr. Kosal Ouch. Okay.
I don't know who that is.
He's on the super soldier circuit. And on the one hand, he probably was in the programs. He was MK Ultra'd, got abused, subjected to all that stuff. Okay. And I'm not going to take that away from him.
Right.
But, okay, here and now, while running the talk show circuit and telling his testimony, he's also pushing, among other things, a cryptocurrency scam where someone looked into it. I give credit, I believe it was Robert Kinder, looked into it and discovered that according to this cryptocurrency setup of Barrow Mays, to buy into it, you get taxed 28%. And then to sell out of it, you get taxed 28%, which all goes to him. Okay. And like anything anywhere near 5% is high. 28%. Are you freaking kidding? And that's just like, I mean, that's, and so this person,
that's his fee that he's charging.
That's his fee. That's his fee that he's charging to get involved in his cryptocurrency scam that he's probably pushing as one of these, like the next part of the quantum financial system, buy into my cryptocurrency, that sort of crap. And there's a lot of that going around.
Remember when I said, you're gonna attract the customers at the level that you are at. Now, I'm pretty sure he has made some money, but that is a great example of, I would know.
And the importance of teamwork and the positive, finding the people with the skills, first finding the people with the same integrity and mission, alignment, vision. That's number one. If you don't have that, forget it in the new earth. But once you have that, then you're finding the people with the right skills. Like there's no way, Jennifer, in the rest of my life, I'm ever going to take the time to accumulate anywhere near the level of skill you have with web administration, websites, digital, production. I'm not even going to try. Why would I? And I, just like, do you have the time to like delve in all the other things and run the million little things that I've got to keep, my operations together? No. And nor should you. Part of the new earth is there are things that we like to do that we are naturally strong at and creative and love doing. And if that anything you do from now on in the new earth to make money, ideally, and if it's going to last and make you happy, it's going to be something that you love. Before in the old society, you kind of sucked it up. You had your day job and you did what you loved on the side. I don't think that's going to cut it anymore.
No, it's making your hobby a business. That's the most important thing. Most people are running hobbies out there right now. It's turning around and actually making it a business. And it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter way of doing it. I have so many skills that it took me a long time because I couldn't figure out what the hell it was that I needed to do, because I was going to do this and I was going to do this. And it did delay my progress, but I don't regret that because I am good at what I do. I had to learn all of that.
You had to slay the dragons.
Yes, but it wasn't until, I had to really get honest with myself and what I was, going back and forth. And I'm a visionary. I am meant to bring in multiple different ideas, But in a way, I realized, and this is about 2 years ago, that I was gatekeeping because they're not just my ideas. How, people have heard me talk about human design on this podcast. I am meant to impact, but in that impact, it's not my impact, it's the other individual's impact. So now that I have this whole collection of different modalities that I have done, when I am working with people, I can be versatile. I can be flexible. I can be just like your friend when he talked about the book and Amazon doing it. Boom, all these different ideas started to come out of me that can help the individual because we do bring different things to the table. It's not, and this is what I love, moving into the higher energies and creating these different businesses that we are doing. We're not being a slave to the system anymore. We are working for ourselves, and it's not just one way that they told us that it needed to be. Go to school, go to college, get a job, and back then, I know in the 80s, you had to go to college to be an entrepreneur,
And hey, newsflash, 8 out of 10, and then now 9 out of 10 people who get their degree in whatever don't even end up in that field. So it's like, it was a lie 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Forget like now, 2024. It was already a lie in the 80s, guys. If you're just catching up, sorry, millennials.
Oh my gosh, how many people do we know that are paying off the debt? I did not go to college. I struggled to get my ass out of high school because I knew it was all bullshit that we were learning. But I couldn't, when I realized I was younger and I was working in a construction company, administration, doing contract administration and working with engineers and stuff like that, I was making my salary starting was as much as the interns coming out of college. And I thought, in my mind, I was programmed, oh, when you come out of college, you're going to have this, that will level up your pay or something. But for the interns coming out, it really didn't. And a lot of them did not even want to do it anymore coming out of it. And they went on to do something else, but they had this huge debt prison that they have created now over them, that they have to go work for someone else because they're going to have to pay this off while, jumping into getting a car, having the family life, getting the house, more debt, more debt, more debt, more debt, more debt. And we could do a separate podcast on what the truth on that is about, but it's just a prison to keep people trapped where, going back to the tribal units, we, in Mayan culture, in Mayan astrology, as soon as a baby was born, they would pull the astrology because it would tell them what part of the tribe they needed to go into. So when I pulled mine, I am a shaman. That's what they would have taken me and put me into shaman school. Okay, they would have put me in that section so that I would have been able to learn. If it came out hunter, go in. You're going to learn how to do that. Because when they start to contribute to the tribe and step into what they're here for, it isn't like working. You have that inspiration. You have that drive. You have that wanting to contribute to something greater than yourself. If you are doing it for a selfish reason, it's all about you, and it's not something greater than yourself. That's a shadow, guys, that you need to take a deeper look at. It all happens to us on one stage of our journey or something along those lines. Ego starts to step in. Just be aware of those things. I have sacrificed so much for this ever since I've been awake that I know that I am coming from a place that it is greater than me because it's not about me at the end of the day.
So that's the whole thing about the first thing is, does your whatever business endeavor you're going to engage in, does it really bring value to the world? Does it really matter? And if it doesn't, Just for a number of reasons, it's not going to work. I'm already saying this. Um, and then finding the like-minded people, it's kind of like this. The fewer resources you have, right? The rougher your situation, the more important it becomes to find your tribe and to take, it's like stone soup. I don't have any meat, but I've got a little bit of parsley. And this person's got some basil, and that person's got potatoes. Oh, and that person's got a little bit of meat. And you stick it all together. It's the stone soup story, which I'm sure a lot of younger people aren't as familiar with. But in modern day, in terms of these business enterprises.
Yes. Brian, we've been almost at a little over an hour in. And I think we've talked about a lot of great nuggets in this. Is there anything else that you want to add or
Nope,
finish off with?
just a shameless plug to come to www.fulldisclosuremovement.org. The wonderful website was put together by Jennifer here, and I'm very, very happy and proud of it. People are raving about it. And, likewise with the event and our lineup and our sister event, Day of Being at a nearby beach there in the Tampa Clearwater area of Florida. And yeah, go to our website, fulldisclosuremovement.org, which is going to remain the website after the conference for our 501c3 foundation.
Talk about that.
We're in the middle of getting that put together. And that's because some of us, myself included, we've been donating to people out there in the community to keep them afloat. And it's getting rough. It's getting hard. You can't do this forever. It's to keep people who are survivors of these programs alive and well so that they can get their testimonies out and we can all collectively demand justice, reconciliation, healing, and achieve our Star Trek future. And we're super proud of this lineup. I mean, like I said to the team in the very beginning, if we could get like 5 of these 10 headliners on our wish list, we're good to go. And we got like 8 of those people in the first week and a half. So we really hope to see you there. And if you can't make it in person, we'll have live stream tickets. Jennifer's helping us to set up. And, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, Brian with an I, and it's Tseng. I'm wearing a Willy Wonka hat in my profile, and you'll also find me connected with the Full Disclosure Movement and Full Disclosure Now conference. And please send me a friend request. And if you'd like to get involved in the movement in any way, or if you have soulpreneur questions or anything of that nature, I'm very happy to help. Please send me a Facebook request and a message.
Yes. And guys, you will be able to find all those links in the description. I highly recommend Zach and Sue. I've supported, they've been a huge supporter of mine for a very long time. Both of them can give me stories about my journey because we've been friends for a while. But the Day of Being, I do highly support going to the Full Disclosure Now conference that is coming up in this July. It's a lot of value for the price. I mean, I'm blown away. You've got people coming that I have been following from the very beginning. Like, I don't get too excited about conferences, so this is one that I do support. And I do love that you're creating the 501c for that, because like myself, if guys, anyone who is listening to this, if you don't quite know what the Super Soldier program is, or the Montauk experience, MK Ultra, these type of things, and you have watched the show Stranger Things and you think, oh my God, this is oddly familiar about something, or you suspect that something may have happened when you were younger, please know that you are not you're not alone. There are a lot of people out here that will understand, not think that your story is absolutely insane. I mean, I can tell my own stories. I haven't fully come out, but I am fully convinced that I was in a project when I was younger, and I do quite understand the trauma from that and working through it. I have recently discovered that I have my body PTSD responds to certain situations, and that all came from my experiences as a child. So, because just speaking, giving my own personal, being vulnerable, because I've had this realization about me, which, sometimes in the instant, if you're not being mindful, your body will respond, then you respond. It may be uncomfortable and things may not come out right. You may have an emotional reaction to things, but it's the self-awareness that I have pinpointed it happening in my body, that now I know the problem. What am I doing? I'm looking and offering a solution, because it is something that has held me back from going to that next level in my business. So sometimes I get tongue tied on the show, and I ask myself, why am I tongue tied? But that's because my body is nervous or whatever at the time. So I am digging deeper into that. So you being able to create a nonprofit to help these individuals go through, whatever it is that y'all are going through, and be able to support. Know that, through the show, we talked a lot about being able to come together as a community and create something that offers the support for people. Brian, you are absolutely doing it. And thank you so much for all the information that you gave. Wonderful, wonderful gold nuggets.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope your listeners, if they have anything they'd like me to come back and follow up on, I'd be more than happy. Please, leave that in the comments below if you haven't subscribed yet as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We may have to do a recap after the conference.
That would be awesome. That would be definitely worth the show. I think anyone listening to this would want to hear the aftermath.
Yes, because I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal event. You're bringing in a lot of different people, and it's really becoming a beautiful co-collaborative experience. One of the best that I've experienced working with a group, and I thank you for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I mean, here's a great plug here. You and I were just talking about Stranger Things and how this world famous TV series that I myself love. I'm waiting for season 5 is about to drop, and they're making billions and billions of dollars off this show. And meanwhile, here's the real life survivors abused as children that are now adults, many with broken health, bad financial situations, and they've never seen a dime. And people are cheering on this show, not realizing that the real life veterans of these military programs are, suffering and struggling in right in their own backyard communities right here. And, we're in bringing justice. If anyone's ever watched that TV show and thought, man, I wish I could help those little kids. Here's that opportunity. And having said that, know that their struggle is your struggle. When those kids were being subjected to early electronic warfare with that Sage radar tower at Camp Hero in Long Island, New York, during the Montauk Project, all that electronic weapons through signals and beaming people with energy and frequency, that's what our cell phones are today. All of that we're trying to expose has absolute currency to our lives today. And, so just to kind of wrap it all around is from the survivor perspective, who's also a soulpreneur, like yourself there, the sense of mission and what it's going to accomplish, and bringing value to people and treating people right, that sustainability and purpose is really what we're trying to incorporate into, that's what I would consider soulpreneurship. That's the definition, all of that right there.
And we're going to end on that, guys. As always, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this out, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye now.
This summer,
join your fellow starseeds, lightworkers, and experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference this July 15th to 18th at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.
Thank you for tuning into The Balanced Visionary. I hope this episode has brought you valuable insights and inspiration. If it resonated with you and you feel like you can light up someone else's day too, please take a moment to screenshot, share, and tag me on Instagram. I love seeing your posts and getting to know you better on a personal level. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Join us next time as we continue our journey towards aligning ambition with soulful success. Until then, keep balancing, keep dreaming, and I'll see you in our next visionary encounter.